Welcome to the Anchorage Title 21 Land Use Code Public Open House slide presentation. In 2012, the Assembly adopted the current Title 21. However, at that time, sections of the code specific to downtown were not updated. In 2019, we embarked on a three-step process that entailed formatting the downtown sections into the current Title 21 format, which created Chapter 11 Downtown in the current Title 21. Step 2 was the 10-year targeted update of the Downtown Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted on April 26, 2022. Step 3 is these amendments to Chapter 11. This effort also provides some minor updates to the Our Downtown Anchorage Downtown District Plan and the Anchorage 2040 Land Use Plan, which are also available for your information and review. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the lands we stand on today. As with gratefulness and respect, the planning team wishes to acknowledge the traditional homeland of the Dena'ina Athabascans and the contributions Alaska Native peoples make to our community and society today. We would especially acknowledge the traditional importance of the area considered for this downtown project and for Ship Creek as the traditional first salmon ceremony site. While updating Chapter 11 of Title 21, we relied on the expertise of the people who use it every day. For this reason, we convened a work group of designers, engineers, landscape architects, planners, and municipal staff to do a line-by-line review of the entire chapter. This was a thoughtful and engaging process that helped us all think outside of the box on how we could recommend changes that would give us a downtown with beautiful buildings, access to sun and beautiful views, and a public landscape that feels safe for everyone. This timeline provides an overview of our process with the work group and internal reviews throughout the year. We kicked off the code update in January 2022 with 11 total meetings up until July. Every working group meeting produced a white paper on the topic of the meeting, in addition to any meeting notes or follow-up actions. After the working group finished going through the code, we had multiple reviews internally to make sure the finished product was organized correctly and would align with other parts of the code. Finally, this project will go before the Planning and Zoning Commission for public hearing on December 12, 2022. These are the existing zones in downtown Anchorage. This project focused on the three downtown zones you see in red at the center of this map: B2A, B2B, and B2C. So why did we need this code update? Well, two of the strategies in the new downtown district plan required the creation of development areas, cultural districts, and opportunity sites. And strategy 2 included building more housing. So the code update was a significant part of this, and looking at the code to make sure that the code allows the kind of housing that we need downtown. In the early stages of this process, we had Bettisworth North do an analysis for us to compare what the plan proposed and what the zoning allowed. They found that in some cases the plan called for more housing units than the zoning code would actually allow, so our task was to reconcile the two. The Bettisworth North study provided us a number of specific recommendations. First, move away from the current design amenities framework, move to a floor area ratio model, remove story limits, remove the caps on dwelling units per acre, and remove the building bulk tower dimensions. So these images show the limitations of the existing code. On the left, the tall square towers best for offices are currently encouraged, while the more narrow residential buildings you see on the right are actually not allowed. Another great piece of the Bettisworth North report was the renders, which help visualize some of the things that people have talked about wanting in downtown. On the previous slide, we looked at the types of towers that could or couldn't be built, and images like this one on the right help the working group think about how to allow the kinds of environments that people really like. So a primary component of any code update is looking at the types of activities, referred to as land uses, allowed in each zone. So the working group went through the land use table line by line and considered where to make improvements or changes if necessary. These tables show all the changes we made just to the permitted uses. We're not showing the accessory uses here. Two examples of this: for example, in existing code, convenience stores are not allowed downtown, and only certain types of hotels are allowed downtown. So both of these things seem to make sense in a downtown area, so we were able to make these changes and others to help facilitate more of the kinds of development that people want to see. Dimensional standards were another major area we looked at, again aiming to allow more of the development that would help bring more people and housing downtown. These include things like minimum lot area, minimum lot width, setbacks, maximum lot coverage, and maximum height. Another focus area was looking at the rules that govern how buildings are shaped. So one concern that comes up often in downtown areas is what a city can do to prevent a bunch of tall square towers which look the same and create concerns about wind and light. So the working group addressed this problem by creating some rules that say below a certain height you can pretty much build whatever you need, a regular simple building. Above a certain height you have to introduce some sort of movement or some changes to the building shape to make it a little bit more interesting and prevent some of those concerns about wind or blocking sunlight. And throughout this process, the working group really focused on reducing the zoning restrictions that didn't have a clear purpose, but often served as obstacles to development. However, the code can still play a role in achieving a variety of different outcomes, including safety at the street level. So one of the things that came out of this process was the recognition that there are a lot of doorways in downtown that feel like they might be hiding something, right? So on the left, you see a door. If you're walking by, you're not sure what's going on in there, and people have commented that didn't feel safe. So the working group addressed this by creating a new standard so that egress doorways should always be visible for someone passing by. And this doesn't mean that people can't use these doorways for shelter or be in them, but rather that there's always a line of sight between the door and the street. A lot of the working group's discussions also center around how buildings should look and what makes a downtown interesting. So we try to create a system that encourages interesting facade designs that don't necessarily impose standards that are significantly different from what developers are likely to provide on their own in new buildings. And of course, throughout this process, we spent a lot of time downtown walking around and experiencing the space with everyone else. And a big piece of this was walking around and observing how people use the sidewalks and the public rights of way. So in these pictures, you can see that sometimes when sidewalks are narrower, people tend to spill in the street, how things like signs, lampposts, and parking meters affect how people move through space, and also how wider sidewalks seem more natural for people than some of the existing narrow ones. One final piece of the code that the group proposed changing was common open space requirements. So a lot of zoning codes require multifamily housing to provide both private open space with each unit, such as a balcony or small yard, and private common open space, such as a shared outdoor area or rooftop patio that everybody living in that apartment complex can use. So because downtown has a lot of public open space already, such as the park strip, the coastal trail, and the other parks, the working group simplified the code to only require private common open space of about 5% of the entire building for apartments with 4 or more units. So thank you to everyone involved in this project, all the comments we received, our terrific working group, all our internal and external partners, and thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact our long-range planning manager, Christine Bonnell, if you have any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again.